20 months. A nation scarred, a death toll rising. And for those still living amid one of Yemen's worst conflicts in modern history, scavenging for survival has become a daily burden. Yemen was one of the poorest nations in the region even before the conflict began. The cost of this war has been high. The UN says at least 10,000 people have died and about 37,000 have been wounded. Around 3 million Yemenis have been displaced, and 80% of the population now relies on humanitarian assistance. But Yemen's youth appear to be paying the highest price, when even finding the energy to cry is too much. More than 1.5 million children are acutely malnourished. These are the figures confronting the warring parties, and they're likely to escalate while peace remains a distant prospect. There are a number of players in the Yemen war. There are the Shia Houthis, who forced the government of President Abd Rabbu Mansur Hadi into exile. They're supported by Iran and other Yemeni rebel groups and have the backing of former President Ali Abdullah Saleh. Then there's the Saudi Arabian-led coalition, which backs Yemen's internationally recognized Hadi government. The US, UK and France support the coalition with military assistance, but not with boots on the ground. The UN has created a roadmap for peace, which would involve the Houthis withdrawing from the capital Sana'a, handing over heavy weapons to a third party, and an eventual transfer of power to a new prime minister to form a government. But that roadmap is falling apart. The Yemeni government labels the UN plan a dangerous international precedent because in its view, this legitimizes the overthrow of the government. For their part, the Houthis and their allies swore in their own government in Sana'a last week.
We recognize that the roadmap does contain difficult choices and underscore that compromises and concessions by all parties will be necessary to reach a durable political settlement.
But is either side actually willing to put aside political differences for the sake of the people and peace? Natalie Pohanen, The Newsmakers.
Well, joining me from London is Safa Al-Ahmed. She's a journalist and filmmaker who's covered the Arab Spring and the conflict from inside Yemen. And from Riyadh, Saudi affairs expert Ahmed Al-Ibrahim. Thanks both of you for joining us. Safa, let me start with you. Why haven't we seen a peace deal yet in Yemen?
I think because the different warring parties don't have an interest at the moment so far for doing a lasting peace. Every different party on the ground and also internationally and regionally still feel that there's more benefit from continuing the war than making peace.
And as I was doing my reading for this program, I'm looking at MSF, Save the Children, Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, Oxfam's chief executive saying Yemen is being slowly starved to death. I mean, it makes for grotesque reading. Tell us what you saw. Was it as awful as the aid agencies are saying it is?
I think what the aid agencies are saying is just touching the surface, sadly, of how bad the situation is in Yemen. I mean, I've been covering Yemen for years, even before the war started, and everybody described Yemen as on the brink, one of the poorest countries in the region. They barely had a functioning infrastructure to begin with, and so you can imagine with this war, it's beyond devastating at the moment, and it's so difficult to move inside Yemen. So the organizations and the UN and Oxfam and all the others have even more limited access to regions in Yemen that are not central. So I imagine we are just at the very surface of how bad the situation really is. And it's not just the lack of access to food, because now with the moving of the central bank and the crisis financially inside the country, so there is not even access to cash. They can't even find cash in Yemen right now. And so the situation is dire on so many different levels. Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine how people are surviving right now.
Ahmed, what do you think of the UN peace plan? And why did the Yemeni government reject it?
Well, the UN peace plan that they just announced it does not serve the purpose with all what's happening right now. What you need right now in Yemen, and I voice my voice with your guest over there, we need to end this war in Yemen by any means. We have a lot of innocent are dying. I mean, if you go to the Saudi border and you see the kilometers, the endless kilometers of trucks, which has foods, tents, medicine, millions and millions of dollars has been pushed through the Saudi-Yemeni border to reach the people that they are sick and the people they're hungry. But unfortunately, the Houthis and Ali Abdullah Saleh is not allowing these people to have access to it, and they're spreading their militia. Listen, you have Saudi Arabia over here. Every morning that they come through the round table with the coalition, they discuss the targets of those civilians people, or the, not to target them, and to make sure that they have good escapes if they want to travel from city to city. I know the coalition forces right now, they are about 15 kilometers around Sana'a, and they are trying to tighten things with less damage to the Yemeni people, because as you know, the Yemeni people live among us as Saudi Arabia. They are 3 million, and they share a lot of heritage with us. So anything that the left coalition forces by Saudi Arabia does not accept that, because the legitimacy of the Yemeni government is not served. And we cannot have a border with Yemen that's going to be invulnerable for us. You know, we have to make it a safe border. This is the mandate that the current Yemeni government has given the coalition forces.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, you talk about legitimacy, right? You don't sign peace deals with people you generally deem legitimate. You sign peace deals with people you're at war with, people you don't like. So isn't President Hadi and aren't the Saudis and President Hadi being difficult here because you don't like those guys? The Houthis, yes, they've committed crimes, but you have to start somewhere. Doesn't it go nowhere if you say, I don't recognize the legitimacy of the other side?
Listen, Saudi Arabia is not being difficult with the coalition. We just want to reach the preliminarily bold points in order for everybody to live peace. If I ask the Houthis to turn in their weapons and to be a part of the political parties in Yemen, I think I'm coming so much to them and I'm accepting them in their part. But if they want to keep their weapons, and they want to keep their missiles, and they want to become another Hezbollah in Yemen, I'm sorry, I'm as Saudi Arabia, I cannot have this on my border. However, Saudi Arabia is trying day and night to get with them. They are trying day and night to put people like Oman, to put other countries. But those Houthis, they are fighting a proxy war on behalf of Iran.
Okay,
if you want to solve this and you want to solve all the children, get somebody from Iran to stop this war.
Let me bring Safa in here. Safa, Ahmed sees the root of the problems with the Houthis and former leader Ali Abdullah Saleh. To what extent is he right?
I mean, there are different levels of this conflict. Definitely there is a local element to this, which is the Houthis and Ali Saleh and their local civil war that's going on. But also Saudi Arabia is part and parcel of this problem as well. I mean, defending Saudi Arabia and saying that they are trying to protect the Yemeni civilians, I think is very problematic. I mean, human rights organizations have proven time and time again that the Saudis are also violating international law by targeting hospitals, by targeting schools, by targeting weddings. And so just calling on the Houthis as if they're the only problem, I think is not true. And that is part of why there is no peace right now, because the Saudis don't want to see why they are also part of the problem. And so it's denial, and that goes nowhere. The Houthis are responsible for violations on the ground. Ali Saleh is, but so are the Saudis. What?
This is inaccurate, because you know what you're just saying. You know,
yeah,
Saudi Arabia is not
and
a
you denying
country
it doesn't make it any different.
No, it's not no. Saudi Arabia wasn't founded to kill innocent people. We always help people. We always push money to countries in order to help their citizens. But
Ahmed,
I'm not gonna.
It's already
I'm not
proven
gonna have
by
somebody putting missiles on. It's not proven. We just got acquitted by two agencies.
It doesn't matter.
They actually acquitted Saudi Arabia. Please get your facts right.
Ahmed, let's take one example, if you don't mind.
I hate hate killing innocent
Sure.
people.
Ahmed,
but the fact is,
let me take one example.
UN acquitted Saudi Arabia on 2 events, and when it was by mistake.
Ahmed,
But,
are you
fair
talking
enough.
for yourself
Ahmed,
or are you representative of the Saudi government?
We're all talking right now, so I don't think the audience can hear anything. Sure. Ahmed, let me come in for a second. Let me take one example. And I think this is important to sort of clarify these things, because there was an incident in August where the MSF hospital was bombed. Even the United States had condemned it. They said the State Department spokesman condemned it, Elizabeth Trudeau. So the United States recognized that the Saudis had bombed the Doctors Without Borders hospital and killed innocent civilians. I know you're going to say this was definitely not on purpose. But do you agree that mistakes were made and innocent civilians were killed, and that Saudi Arabia has to take responsibility for those mistakes?
Listen, I agree. Mistakes happen. Even the Americans with the highest technology, they made a mistake in Iraq when they bombed a bunker and it had 300 civilian Iraqis. I'm not saying war is nice. War is bad. Not killing a human bad is bad. Killing a cat on the street is bad. And Saudi Arabia is not in the business of killing innocent people. Saudi Arabia, their mandate in Yemen to have a better future Yemen and a future border country with us. What happened is you have to put factors on many things. There's some intel on the ground. There is misinformation is happening. There is a lot of the Houthis, what they are doing, they're putting these missiles on top of the roofs of the schools and the mosque. There is bases next to the school and they start shooting on the airplanes. Mistakes does happen. But there's no question that we cannot negotiate on killing innocent souls. But again, those Houthis is the head of the snake. Iran is putting these Houthis. They are using the same tactics that Hezbollah used with Lebanon against Israel. There is so many fingerprints that putting Iran into this, and they are using
I mean, Imran,
these
this is a great
tactics in
example
order
of
to
why
bring
there is no
people
let's bring Safa
like
in.
your guests to be
Let's
sympathized with
Let's bring in
them.
Safa. Safa, come in.
I mean, calling people the head of a snake, I mean, that's a great example of why there is no real peace in Yemen right now. I think it's not conducive to respecting the other side. No, that's not irrelevant. That just goes to show you how you're thinking of the other side and how you talk about them. There's no defense of what the Houthis are doing on the ground or Ali Saleh, but there's no defense of human rights violations that the Saudi coalition has committed on the ground as well. So I don't know if you're a representative of the Saudi government or not, so I don't know on what basis we're talking here.
I'm not.
So there's a problem here. We're talking about real violations on the ground. If you want to have peace with the Houthis,
problem is I'm talking about
war
facts.
an entire population.
I'm giving you facts.
So wait for me to finish. I let you finish. You let me finish. Waging war an entire population that's near the brink of starvation does not help anyone, and you're creating more enemies by people seeing you as the people who are waging war in an entire country. So if we're going to be realistic about having a lasting peace with a neighbor that's not going anywhere, then calling people heads of snakes is not healthy or conducive to that, frankly.
Ahmed?
Okay, so we give your friends in the south of Yemen, Houthis or Ali Abdullah Saleh since 2009, and we were protecting our borders. Are you suggesting we should wait until Iran and their troops with the Houthis and Ali Abdullah Saleh march into Saudi Arabia and we do then defeat them inside the lands of Saudi Arabia? Listen, I agree with you. Humans should not be touched. Saudi officials with the coalition every day, they sit around table just discussing civilian targets. They get the toppest of the American intelligence satellites to identify these targets. The United States of America technology is present in the war of Yemen. America is giving us all these coordination and GPS location, and we target it based on that. So we are not in the business of killing people.
You made your point, Ahmed, you made it well. We are out of time. I want one final thought from Safa. Safa, Ahmed talks about the Houthis, backed by Iran, being a national security threat to Saudi Arabia, and this is why they're in it for the long haul. To what extent is that true? Do you think that is a real and tangible fear, Safa?
I don't think it is, and the Saudis have failed to prove that tangibly. The involvement of the Saudis in Yemen is much heavier, much obvious than the Iranians. I think what's going on now with this war is that they are increasing the possibility of that involvement of the Iranians. But look, we're almost 2 years into this war, and they are nowhere nearer to Sana'a. It's been like over 6 months, and every day they claim that they're on the doorsteps of Sana'a. What they have achieved with this war is that they've killed more and more civilians. And I don't think that's a viable goal for this. If you think you want to have peace on your borders, then this is not the way to go about it.
Okay, Safa and Ahmed, it is a horrible situation in Yemen. More than 10,000 dead, 20 million without sanitation, 3.3 million internally displaced. I think we can all agree that this war has to stop. How it does is up to debate. Hope to speak to the two of you again in the not too distant future, Safa Ahmed and Ahmed Al Ibrahim. Thank you very much.